All right. I'm hoping this works. I should probably check my YouTube to make sure this is working, but hopefully we are on YouTube Live right now. It's been a while since I've done one of these videos. I'm hoping to get back into the YouTube game a little bit more here in the future. We've got a new green screen behind me, or am I broadcasting inside the Irwin Center right now? I don't know. The world may never know. So I don't think anyone's watching right now. I'm going to share this on my Twitter page so we can try to get some folks in here. Once again, I might be talking to myself right now, but this is good that this is working. It appears that we are on YouTube right now. All right, CB in the house. What's up, CB? All right, guys. So let me share this on YouTube real quick, but an emergency YouTube video required. The big news dropping from John Rothstein of CBS Sports that Shaka Smart is leaving Texas to become the next head basketball coach at Marquette University. Give me a second here. I feel like I should know what I'm doing, but I don't. It's just what y'all want to hear. Okay. 1 second. Hope you guys are doing all right. Feel free to comment anything, any questions about Shaka Smart, about who might be next, and just whatever else y'all want to talk about. But real quick, I'm going to tweet this out so we can get as many folks in here as possible. Once again, but big news, big time news, man. There were rumors, there were rumblings that this could happen. I will tell y'all what I was told earlier this week here in a second. But this news did not come as the biggest surprise to me, and I think a lot of Longhorn fans kind of feel the same way. The writing was on the wall that the Shaka Smart era at Texas might be coming to an end. And, God, my internet is so slow. I'm sorry for the people who have been here from the first second of this video. You guys are getting screwed. I'll make this worth your while, I promise. I promise. My internet's been acting up. My Google Fiber's been messing up. I thought I have the best internet in the game. I have no clue what's going on here. All right, emergency, YouTube Live, talking Shaka Smart and Texas. Oops. Come join us. All right. So the tweet is out. Should be good to go. Okay, so thanks everyone for being here. Hope everyone's having a great morning. What a start to the morning, huh? A Friday morning news dump. I don't know if we can call it a news dump since it happened in the morning, right? Generally, news dumps are reserved for late afternoon. But, John Rothstein of CBS Sports, one of the best college basketball writers and analysts in the country, he tweeted out a little bit less than an hour ago that Shaka Smart is leaving Texas to become the next head basketball coach at Marquette. The official tweet. Sources, Marquette is closing in on hiring Texas's Shaka Smart as its next head basketball coach. Guys, this had to happen. This absolutely had to happen. Look, the 6-year tenure for Shaka Smart at Texas was incredibly disappointing. Obviously, it culminated with that embarrassing loss to Abilene Christian last weekend. I called it the most embarrassing loss in Texas basketball history. I will stand by that take. I hope that remains the case until the end of time. I hope we do not have a loss that's more pathetic than that loss that we suffered in the first round of the tournament last week. But 6 years, 0 tournament wins for Shaka Smart here at Texas. Not only that, he's got a losing record in conference play. I think he's 5 games under 500 in the Big 12 during his time at Texas, and just couldn't get it done. I mean, really could not get it done. Look, Rick Barnes, I know he's the best coach in Texas basketball history, and I'm not starting this video off by saying Texas should have kept Rick Barnes. No, the move to get rid of Rick Barnes was right. It was the right time. It got stale. It had to be done. It happens. It happened with Mac Brown. Hell, it happened with Augie Garrido. I mean, it happens. Sometimes things get stale, and you've got to make the move. That was the case for Rick Barnes. But guys, Rick Barnes made the NCAA tournament in all but one of his seasons here at Texas. And in Rick Barnes' last 6 years, which obviously weren't good enough to keep him around, well, he won 2 NCAA tournament games. And through 6 years for Shaka Smart at Texas, obviously 0 NCAA tournament wins. And Texas had no choice. I know Texas wanted to keep Shaka Smart. I know Chris Del Conte likes Shaka Smart. He respects the hell out of Shaka Smart. And pretty much everybody likes and respects Shaka Smart. But when you're the head basketball coach anywhere, but especially at a university with as much money and as many resources as the University of Texas, your job is not to be well-liked. Your job is not to be well-respected. Your job is to win games. And Shaka Smart couldn't do that. It's as simple as that. So this move had to be made. CDC liked Shaka. He also liked the fact that Shaka stayed out of trouble. With so much corruption and so many scandals going on across college basketball these days, I know for a fact CDC enjoyed the fact that Shaka Smart kind of stayed away from that, right? Texas was not under the FBI microscope. Texas has not been under the NCAA microscope when so many big-time programs, Power 5 programs across the sport are constantly watched and have been under fire a lot over the past few years for recruiting violations and all sorts of other scandals. Texas has not been in that position. So I know CDC has loved that about Shaka Smart. But once again, I mean, after that loss on Saturday, this was inevitable, guys. And from the people I talked to behind the scenes, I was kind of hinting to this on the show earlier this week, but I'll go ahead and say it out right now. From the people I talked to behind the scenes, Shaka Smart was pretty much told, hey, go find another job or we're going to fire you. Like, he got the courtesy from CDC and the Texas Athletic Department to, go look around, try to find a soft landing before we just pull the plug on this thing. But this is not oh my God, is Marquette a better job than Texas? Oh my God, did Shaka not want to be at Texas anymore? No. This is a CDC basically told Shaka Smart, hey, it's time to S or get off the pot. And that was nice. I think it benefits all parties, right? I mean, Texas gets the chance to go out and hire a new, better coach. Shaka Smart gets to land on his feet. Once again, I like and respect the hell out of Shaka Smart too. I think all of you guys feel the same way. So Shaka Smart gets a good job in Marquette. Marquette is in Wisconsin. Shaka Smart is from Wisconsin, so he gets to go back close to home to coach at a school that he knows very well, in an area that he knows very well. And Marquette's a good job. It's a Big East program. They've had a lot of success over the years. I mean, that is a very, very respectable job for Shaka Smart. And I wonder if there are Marquette fans who are a little bit upset at this hire because they just fired Steve Wojciechowski because of a lack of NCAA tournament success. Right, the former Duke guard Wojo has been coaching at Marquette for the last few years. He was fired a few weeks ago, and the biggest reason they let him go was because he wasn't winning games in the tournament. Now they bring in Shaka Smart, who his biggest problem at Texas was not winning games in the tournament. But that's neither here nor there. It's a good job for Shaka Smart. He lands on his feet. I'm happy for him. Other good news for Texas. Look, Texas does not have to pay all of the $7.1 million buyout that it was going to owe Shaka if they fired him outright. Now, we'll see what the financials are, and maybe Texas is going to have to pay some of that $7.1 million to make this thing happen, but I know for a fact it won't be all $7.1 million, and that's huge, right? You don't want to pay buyouts. I know Texas has more money than any athletic department in the country, and they can definitely afford the $7.1 million buyout, but when you've got the new basketball arena coming, when you've got the new practice facility coming, when you've got the South End Zone project at DKR almost complete, when you've got upgrades to Moncrief coming. I mean, look, Texas has spent a hell of a lot of money over the last couple of years, and they've got a lot more money on the books for facilities upgrades and renovations. So, CDC has worked his ass off to fundraise for all of those other projects. You would like to limit the amount of projects that you need to fundraise for. And if you can avoid having to raise another $7.1 million, you try to do that. And Texas is going to be able to succeed in that, which is great. So that's great. And also, Texas doesn't have to deal with the public blowback of firing a coach that everyone respects. But not only a coach that everyone respects, a coach that just won the first Big 12 tournament title in school history. I mean, there were a lot of good things that happened to Texas basketball this year. This was a top 5 program in the country at one point. They won the Maui Invitational for the first time in school history. They won the Big 12 tournament title for the first time in school history. They were a 3 seed, which was the highest seed Texas has been in the tournament since 2008. But of course, this sport, I say it all the time, it's defined by success in March, and more specifically defined by success in the NCAA tournament. And when you lose in the first round to Abilene Christian, a school that was a D2 school less than 10 years ago, that can't happen. And that almost makes all the other stuff for naught, guys. I mean, it really just diminishes the other accomplishments that Texas basketball had all year long because they couldn't get it done when it mattered most. Also, I will say this, with what's been going on at Texas involving the eyes of Texas over the last near calendar year at this point, it would not have been the best of looks for Texas to fire a black head coach who everybody likes, who everybody respects, and once again, who was able to accomplish some things that have never been accomplished in Texas basketball history before. So the optics of that would have not been great, guys. They wouldn't have been great. As simple as that. So it's good for Shaka Smart. He gets to land on his feet. A good job in Marquette. Texas doesn't have to pay the buyout. They don't have to deal with the public blowback. And Texas gets to hire a new, better coach. All right, I'll check some of the comments. By the way, if y'all have comments, feel free to chime in. I'm using this program called StreamYard, as y'all can see at the top right, top left. I'm not sure where it's showing up on your screen, but it allows me to put your comments up on the screen like this. So we get a hallelujah from CB. Yeah, this is a great day for Texas basketball, guys. It really is. Manny S says it had to happen. Worst loss, Kansas football in 2016 or Abilene Christian 2021? It's Kansas football, no question. It's Kansas football. Kansas football is worse than Abilene Christian basketball, number one. Number two, more football first school like that. You can't do that. With all the history and pageantry that Texas football has, you can't lose to a program like that when they were as down as they were. All right, let's talk Leonard's Mirror TV. We've got a talking TV joining us today. Leonard's Mirror TV says, let's talk new coaches so we don't have to kiss Shaka's ass anymore. Let's talk new coaches. Let's talk potential candidates to replace Shaka Smart. I know that's what all of y'all want to talk about. That's what y'all have wanted to talk about pretty much since the moment the final buzzer sounded last Saturday, right? Who's next at Texas? And look, from what I've heard behind the scenes, I think some people are starting to report it on Twitter. So I don't think I'm like breaking any news here, but I fully expect Texas to go full bore on Chris Beard. I think they're going to use the full court press to try to lure Chris Beard in from Texas Tech. Chris Beard has done phenomenal things at Texas Tech, right? I mean, he's had success in the NCAA tournament. That, of course, has been the biggest problem for Shaka Smart. Or I should say that was. We can speak in the past tense now. That was the biggest problem for Shaka Smart here at Texas. He was unable to find ways to get it done in the NCAA tournament. Well, Chris Beard has not had that problem at Texas Tech. Of course, he had the Red Raiders in the national championship game the last time we had a tournament back in 2019. But it's not just that. It's not just one successful tournament run that Chris Beard had at Texas Tech. In 2018, he led the Red Raiders to the Elite Eight, where they lost to the eventual national champion Villanova Wildcats. And if you remember that Villanova team, they were damn good. I mean, they blew everybody out in that tournament. They crushed Kansas in the Final Four, and then they stomped on Michigan in the national title game. Like, that Villanova team was far and away the best team in the country. And Texas Tech, that game was actually kind of close. I think with about 10 minutes left, it was either tied or Tech had the lead, if memory serves, but they still made it to the Elite Eight. And that was year 2 for Chris Beard in Lubbock. That was year 2 for Chris Beard in Lubbock. Last year, a decent year for the Red Raiders. They would have made the tournament, but they would have been, they were on the bubble. They were on the right side of the bubble, but they would have been somewhere from a 7 to a 10 seed. That would have been my guess. And then this year, they were a 6 seed. They won their first round NCAA tournament game, but lost in heartbreaking fashion to Arkansas in the second round a couple of days ago. I'm sure y'all watched that game. I mean, you can blame Chris Beard, I guess. You could probably always point to a couple of coaching decisions. Anytime a result doesn't go your way, anytime you have a close game that goes down to the wire and you don't find a way to win, you could point to things that the coaches did or didn't do. But man, Texas Tech, I mean, Mac McClung missed a free throw that would have tied the game in the final minute. And then Tech missed a couple of layups. I mean, bunnies at the 10 in the last minute. That would have either tied the game or given Texas Tech the lead. So I don't know how much of that loss you can really put on Chris Beard. And I don't think a lot of Tech fans were really pissed about Chris Beard. They love Chris Beard. They know that they have something special with Chris Beard, and they know that, they know where their basketball program was before they got Chris Beard. So they are trying to do whatever they possibly can to keep him. They've already given him a couple extensions. They have basically announced to the rest of the world that it's going to be very, very difficult to come grab our coach. They have made the buyout money relatively high, and they are paying Chris Beard. I mean, he's a top 10 paid coach in all of college basketball. I think this year he was a top 5 paid coach in all of college basketball. So Tech's got some money too, and they're kind of embracing becoming a basketball school right now. But in terms of Texas, I still fully expect Texas to go after Chris Beard. I think he's the top target. I think he should be the top target too. I really do. He would be my first choice if I was Chris Del Conte. And an important day to keep in mind, guys. A very important date to keep in mind is April 1st. April Fool's Day. No, this is no April Fool's Day. But what happens on April 1st, BK? Well, on April 1st, Chris Beard's buyout goes down to $4 million. Part of that contract extension, one of the contract extensions that Chris Beard got at Texas Tech, but his most recent contract extension, his buyout was higher for Big 12 schools or schools in the state of Texas. Texas obviously is both of those. But his buyout was lower. So like if Indiana wanted to hire Chris Beard, and I think they do want to hire Chris Beard, but if Indiana were to hire Chris Beard, the buyout for them would be less than what the buyout would be for Texas. But after April 1st, Chris Beard's buyout goes down to $4 million, which is not egregious at all. It really isn't, guys. I mean, Brad Underwood at Illinois, who would be my second choice, I believe his buyout is somewhere around $10 million. If you want to take him away from Illinois, you'd have to pay more than twice as much as you'd have to pay to get Chris Beard at Texas Tech. And once again, Shaka Smart taking the job at Marquette means you don't have to pay most or all of that $7.1 million buyout. So Texas has some money that I assume they would be willing to spend to go buy out a coach, and $4 million is not a whole hell of a lot. So Chris Beard's my top choice, and his buyout is a lot less than Brad Underwood. His buyout is less than Nate Oates, who's the head coach at Alabama, who would also be on my top 5 list of candidates to replace Shaka Smart at Texas. But Chris Beard, man, he is my top choice. I hope he is Texas's top choice. He's a guy who's proven he can win in the tournament. He's proven he could win in the Big 12 Conference. He's proven he could win in the state of Texas. Guys, he's recruited really well in the state of Texas, too. He really has. I mean, Texas Tech, what was Texas Tech before Chris Beard got there? I mean, when the hell was Texas Tech getting top 20 recruits in the country? That was never happening. And my biggest recruiting knock on Shaka Smart, like if you look at the stars, Shaka Smart recruited pretty damn well during his time at Texas. And stop me if you've heard this before, right? A coach at Texas recruiting well, but not finding a way to translate that into success during the season. But Shaka recruited very, very well at Texas for the most part. If you look at stars, I mean, outside of Kansas, Texas was the best recruiting team in the Big 12 over the last 6 years. But Shaka Smart missed out on a ton of in-state kids. A ton of in-state kids. And a few of those in-state kids went to Texas Tech and were really damn good. You think of Zaire Smith, who helped Texas Tech get to the Final Four and ended up being a lottery pick in the NBA draft. You think of a Jarrett Culver, who was a part of that team as well. Went to Texas Tech and ended up being a first-round pick in the NBA draft. Like, those are guys that wanted to come to Texas, and Shaka Smart either didn't offer or botched the recruitments of those two cats. And Chris Beard, I mean, I can go down the list of all of the in-state guys. Micah Peavy at Duncanville, a freshman right now, one of the top players in the states from last year's class. Texas did offer, but like Texas Tech has become a place where in-state kids want to play because of the success that they've had and because of the reputation that Chris Beard has built up in Lubbock as one of the top basketball coaches, not only in the Big 12, but in the country as well. And, oh, by the way, guys, Chris Beard's a Texas grad. Did I mention that? And he started his coaching career at the University of Texas. So I can already, if there are any Tech fans in here, I'm sure they're already typing into their screens right now, like, oh, he wouldn't leave Texas Tech for Texas. I can't say with 100% confidence that he would, but I know 3 years ago, I was told that he would have done anything for this Texas job. Now, maybe the situation has changed because he's got a much better contract at Texas Tech and he's already built things up at Texas Tech. That program is very, very healthy and stable right now. But come on, guys, you got a chance to live in Austin. I mean, Lubbock or Austin, seriously. Lubbock or Austin. And it's not like Chris Beard is from Lubbock and he's got like emotional ties to Lubbock or to the South Plains or anything like that. You got a choice to live in Austin, Texas or Lubbock, Texas. Where are you going? And I don't know, guys. I think it could happen. I really do think it could happen. And I mentioned the school Duncanville. David Peavy is the head coach at Duncanville. His son, Micah, is the freshman at Texas Tech right now, one of the top recruits in the state from last year who chose Texas Tech over UT and a bunch of other schools across the country. Remember that name, David Peavy. I mean, Duncanville is one of the best high school basketball programs in the state. They won the state title this year. They won it 2 years ago. They would have won it last year if we didn't have the COVID pause, really the COVID cancellation of Texas high school basketball last year. David Peavy could potentially be a part of a Chris Beard staff. I would love for that to happen. I know those guys have a relationship. I don't mean to report that, but I talked about that on the show yesterday. Kind of just plant the seed in your head, okay? That's a potential combination that we could have here on the 40 acres. The Chris Beard, David Peavy combo, which would be awesome because David Peavy is a hell of a coach. And once again, his high school program in Dallas has been incredible. Duncanville's got talented players every year. Even if Peavy leaves, I don't expect that to change, but then you'd have a pipeline from Duncanville to UT, which would be massive. And Peavy's got great relationships with coaches all over the state, right? All over the Metroplex, but really all over the state of Texas as well. He's one of the most well-respected high school basketball coaches in Texas. That would be a big, big addition if you can make it happen. So Chris Beard would be my first choice. Christopher says, let's go get Underwood. Yeah, I mean, if you guys have listened to the show all college basketball season long, I was pumping Brad Underwood. Oh, that sounds weird. I was promoting Brad Underwood very early on, and I was telling people, you got to watch this Illinois team this year. They're going to be really, really good. Now, I know they had a disappointing tournament loss to Loyola of Chicago in the round of 32, but, dude, Loyola of Chicago beats everybody in the tournament. Like, is that an upset anymore when those guys win? They're ridiculous this time of year. And my point is that doesn't take away from the fact that Brad Underwood's a really, really good coach. Coached at Stephen F. Austin for 3 years in the state. Went to 3 NCAA tournaments. I think he won 2 tournament games at Stephen F. Austin, like as a lower seed. I think they won a tournament game as a 14 one year, and I think they won a tournament game as a 12 seed one year. So had great success there. Then took the job at Oklahoma State, was there for 1 year. I think made the tournament that 1 year. I should know this off the top of my head. I'll fact check that in a second. But then got money whipped by Illinois. Like Oklahoma State was not willing to come close to matching what Illinois was offering Brad Underwood. So I think Underwood was making like $1 million a year at OSU. And then Illinois came in and said, hey, we'll triple that. We'll give you $3 million a year. So my point is, or why I bring that up is if you're Texas, you can money whip anybody. Brad Underwood has already shown in his career that he is willing to listen to the money. And if Texas really wanted to go get Underwood, if that was their second choice, or hell, maybe that's their top choice, then maybe you could make that happen. But once again, the buyout for Brad Underwood, I believe, is $10 million, or right around $10 million, which is more than what Chris Beard's buyout would be. So I assume that factors into the equation. Once again, Texas has money, but you don't want to spend money when you don't have to. And you're already spending $338 million on the basketball arena, which most of that is being funded by the Oakview Group and by the Moody Foundation. I get it, but CDC has still had to raise some money for that. Facilities upgrades, practice facilities upgrades for basketball, those are happening as well. I think those are around $60 million. Obviously, the DKR project, very, very expensive. You've recently updated and upgraded the tennis facilities, baseball facilities. I mean, there's a lot of money being thrown around. And I mentioned this earlier. If you're Texas, you would like to limit the amount of money you're spending on a buyout as much as you possibly can. That's why Shaka leaving for Marquette is so huge, because you don't have to pay that full $7.1 million buyout, right? So I would love Underwood. I would be thrilled if Brad Underwood is the guy. I think he should be one of Texas's top targets. I think he's one of the biggest names out there, and I think he is out there. Now, my guess is Illinois would do whatever they can to keep Brad Underwood, right? Like if Texas comes calling, you might see news of Brad Underwood reaching a contract extension with a little bit of a pay bump to stay in Champaign-Urbana. We've seen that before, guys, the Texas bump. We've seen it in baseball. We've seen it in football. We might see it a time or two in basketball this year as well, where if Texas comes calling, or if there's reports that Texas might be interested, then all of a sudden a new contract gets worked out with said coach at the school he's already at. Dad Diaz, what's up? What's good, BK? What's good, man? Appreciate everybody watching. Good turnout on this. Got the green screen behind me. What do y'all think? Just bought this on Amazon a couple of days ago. The Irwin Center behind me. I don't think I was fooling anybody, right? I don't think anyone thought I was actually in there. Plus, that's the old court design. So, yeah, I really don't think anybody thought I was there. But bought the green screen, so we'll be doing live broadcasts from the Flan. We'll be doing live broadcasts from DKR when we're talking football, maybe some from the Dish as well. But I figured I'd spruce it up instead of just showing you all my living room every time I do one of these videos. Let's see. All right, we'll stay on for a couple more minutes. Well, if you guys keep having comments, send them in. I'll talk about whatever y'all want to talk about. We can keep talking Texas hoops. We can get into Kai Jones. We can talk personnel if we want, right? Which players are going to be back for Texas next year, or what other guys could be leaving this program. Harrison says, how do you feel about Royal Ivy? Yeah, Joe Cook and I recorded our 1-0 podcast earlier this week, and we talked a little bit about who could potentially replace Shaka Smart if a move was made. Obviously, we recorded that a couple of days ago, so we did not know that Shaka Smart was taking the job at Marquette. So it was all speculation at the time. I mentioned that my first choice was Chris Beard, and Joe mentioned that his first choice was Royal Ivey. Of course, the lifetime Longhorn, incredibly loved and respected around these parts. And he's had a nice coaching career for himself. He's currently an assistant coach with the Brooklyn Nets in the NBA. Obviously working with another lifetime Longhorn in Kevin Durant up there. But he's been an assistant coach in the NBA for a number of years. I think he was with the Knicks for a while. I think he was with Oklahoma City for a while. I know he spent some time in the G League too. So Royal Ivey has never been a head coach anywhere, but he does have a lot of assistant coaching experience at the NBA level. And once again, lifetime Longhorn. You talk about getting the BBs back in the box. That's an expression we'll use with Texas football all the time. If you wanted to get everybody bought in and everybody excited about Texas basketball moving forward, well, hiring a dude like Royal Ivey wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, right? I mean, hypothetically, lifetime Longhorn, once again, a guy that people likes. He was a part of one of the best, maybe the best Texas basketball team in school history. That would do it for a lot of folks. But for me, I wouldn't hire Royal Ivey. I mean, I wouldn't hate it. I'd support it and I'd cheer for it, but I want a guy with coaching experience, head coaching experience. And I want a guy with collegiate head coaching experience, right? That's what I'm looking for. You got to get this hire right, and you have to get this hire right. And I don't think Royal Ivey necessarily would do a bad job here, but once again, I just want a guy who's got experience coaching and a guy who's won at the collegiate level. So Royal Ivey wouldn't be a top 3 candidate for me. But maybe for some of y'all, he would be. I don't know. Morgan says, I'd like to offer a ton of money to Mark Few. Make him say no to Texas. You know, I should have started with the dream candidates for Texas. Mark Few would be on that list. Jay Wright would be on that list. Brad Stevens would be on that list for sure. I mean, those are dream candidates. If you're just saying, man, money doesn't matter and let's just go pay whoever, right? Let's go money whip whoever. We'll give this guy $10 million a year to come coach at Texas. Like if you wanted to have that conversation, then yeah, hell yeah. Mark Few, Jay Wright, Brad Stevens. All 3 of those guys would be better options than Chris Beard, but it's not going to happen, guys. It's just not going to happen. Mark Few's not leaving Gonzaga. Jay Wright's not leaving Villanova. And Brad Stevens is not leaving the Boston Celtics to come to UT. It's none of those things are going to happen. I don't think there's enough money in the world. Or maybe there is, but not enough money UT would be realistically willing to spend to get any of those guys to leave their programs. No chance, but that'd be awesome. Jake in the building. What's up, Jake? Appreciate the love. We got another Jake. Jake Schwartz, the great Jake Schwartz. What's up, bro? Kim Mulkey to coach Texas men's basketball. Shoot. Should probably be better than what we've had around here the last couple of years. Come on now. Yeah, Baylor women's basketball, a powerhouse. They might be playing UConn in the Elite Eight in a couple of days, which would be an awesome matchup for you women's basketball fans. By the way, shout out to the women's basketball team, UT women's basketball team. I'm not going to talk too much about them right now, but I will say what Vic Schaefer has pulled off this year is incredibly impressive. I mean, getting to the Sweet 16 in year 1, it's awesome. And it shows you, Texas fan, I'm talking to you, that it doesn't take 7 years to win a game in the NCAA tournament. Like you could turn a program around in relatively short order. And it's not like Shaka Smart walked into a terrible situation, right? I mean, before this year, his best team was his first year. And those were with all of Rick Barnes' players. Like Rick Barnes left the cupboard, I don't want to say stocked, completely stocked, but there were some pieces, there were some things to work with. Shaka Smart didn't walk into an awful situation. Like Charlie Strong walked into a way worse situation left by Mac Brown than Shaka Smart walked into left by Rick Barnes. So my point is why I bring up Vic Schaefer and why I'm glad we got the Kim Mulkey comment. We're going full circle here, guys. Vic Schaefer proved that it doesn't take that long to turn a college basketball program around. And if you want to say, well, that's women's basketball, men's basketball is different, look at some of the coaches that are still in the NCAA tournament. Juwan Howard, year 2. Nate Oates at Alabama, year 2. Eric Musselman at Arkansas, year 2. Mick Cronin at UCLA. Got a gift by not having to play Texas in round 2, by the way. But still, into the Sweet 16, year 2. Out of those coaches, Juwan Howard's the only coach that walked into a great situation. I mean, John Beilein, Michigan was awesome under John Beilein. Y'all know this. They played for 2 national championships. Beilein didn't get fired. He took a job in the NBA, which did not work out at all. But Juwan Howard walked into a great situation. There's no doubt about that. But those other guys, Nate Oates, Alabama, and they had some pieces, but come on, what has Alabama basketball done lately? Arkansas, this is their first Sweet 16 since 96, the Stroll and Nolan days. They haven't been anything. And within 2 years, Eric Musselman walks in, and he's got them as a 3 seed and into the Sweet 16. Then Mick Cronin, look, UCLA's a blue blood, but they haven't been a blue blood lately. And they just fired their last coach a couple of years ago to bring in Mick Cronin to try to turn things around. And within 2 years, he's got 2 tournament wins. And Shaka couldn't get 0 in 6 years. So I'm glad y'all finally came around to my side. I got a lot of crap over the last 6 years for saying Shaka Smart's not the guy and that we need to give him more time. And I think that loss on Saturday kind of flipped everyone's opinion. And then the fact that Abilene Christian lost to UCLA by 20. I mean, if anyone was still under the impression that Shaka Smart deserved another year here after watching that, if that didn't change your mind, I don't know what would have changed your mind. But a move absolutely had to be made. It's funny. I got so much crap for 5+ years on my phone about Shaka Smart, and no one apologized. No one ever apologized for it. My phone works, guys. I'm not talking to y'all, I don't think. All right, Connor Cook, what's up, guys? Appreciate the love, man. Had to get an emergency YouTube video going. Trying a new software, trying this StreamYard thing. Just bought this green screen that's behind me. I think it's working all right. Seems like the internet connection is okay. Haven't gotten any complaints about that, which is awesome. I love that. Yes, and thank you, Josh. Glad I'm posting again. Yeah, the plan is I'm going to get back on YouTube. I mean, I was hoping to have a few more days to kind of get my setup right. Everything seemingly is working, which is great, but I am planning on doing a lot more of these YouTube videos in the future, talking all things Texas. So this will not be a last video for me by any stretch of the imagination. Dab says, how many players do we have coming back next year? That's a great question. You know, Royce Ham Jr. and Donovan Williams both put their names in the transfer portal earlier this week. We talked about that on the show. But they haven't announced where they're going yet. So hypothetically, they could withdraw from the portal and come back to Texas. And I think there's a chance that that could happen because Texas is bringing in a new coach. Like if Texas goes out and hires Chris Beard and maybe Chris Beard talks to Donovan Williams and says, hey, man, we really want you here, then hypothetically Donovan Williams could come back to UT. I would say Royce Ham Jr. is less likely because he's already graduated and he only has 1 more year of eligibility next season and he can play right away as a grad transfer. So my guess is he's probably gone regardless, but maybe a guy like Donovan Williams could change his mind if a new coach, when a new coach is brought in. I guess depending on the coach, we know a new coach is coming in. But to answer your question, look, there's a chance that of the 11 scholarship players that were on this roster this year, Texas could lose 7 of them, right? And let's run down the list. Just mentioned Royce Ham, Donovan Williams. Kai Jones announced that he was going to the NBA draft a couple of days ago. We all expect Greg Brown to do the same, right? At some point, he's going to announce that he is headed to the NBA. Matt Coleman, he can come back. Everybody can come back due to the NCAA eligibility waiver, but Matt Coleman's been here for 4 years. He's been a starter here for 4 years. I don't know how much he can improve his draft stock by coming back for another year. He's already old by NBA draft standards. I don't think he's going to be a draft pick in the NBA, but that's a guy who can play professionally at the next level, whether it's here in the States or somewhere overseas. Go get that money, man. Go chase that paper. I think Matt Coleman's gone, so that's 5. Jericho Sims, same boat. Jericho Sims should be a draft pick. I mean, he played well enough this year, especially down the stretch this season, to where he should be a second-round draft pick. I expect somebody to take a chance on Jericho Sims late in the second round, but if not, he's going to get an opportunity in the summer league. So he can't improve his stock anymore. He fits into that Matt Coleman conversation where he can make money to play basketball next year, so there's no point in coming back to UT for another year. So that's 6 right there, guys. And then the 7th, look, Andrew Jones hypothetically could leave. I mean, he was a redshirt junior this year, but he's been on campus for 5 years. Talk about being old by NBA draft standards. I mean, that guy, he's 23? Is he 23 right now, or he's about to be 23? Like, that's old. NBA teams will hold that against you. And I don't think Andrew Jones is going to be a draft pick, but he's another one of those guys that I think could play basketball somewhere professionally. So that's 7. Courtney Ramey, maybe. I think he should come back for another year, but I don't know. I won't throw Courtney Ramey in there. I expect Ramey to be back, but that's 7 right there, guys. 7 of the 11 scholarship players from the Texas roster this year could be gone for next season. So to answer your question, Dab, we might have four guys back on next year's squad. Who would that be? That'd be Courtney Ramey. That'd be Jace Febris, who hypothetically could leave. But he might benefit from the eligibility waiver because he's a senior. So in a normal year, he'd be forced to leave. But I think he's coming back, and I think he's hinted towards coming back as well. Kamaka Hepa, who didn't play very much this year, but still on scholarship. And then Brock Cunningham. Yikes. Yikes. Yeah, that's not a lot there. Coaching turnover might not be the biggest issue surrounding Texas basketball next year. I mean, even if Shaka Smart came back, we all knew that it was going to be tough to replicate the success that this team had next year, or excuse me, that this team had this year. And it's going to be, I mean, the new coach is walking into a worse situation than the situation Shaka Smart walked into. Let's just say that. Now, I think the new coach, if it's the right hire, he could turn things around relatively quickly. I think it should, and it is going to take him less time to get this program on the right track than Shaka Smart did. But, yeah, you might only have 4 scholarship players coming back next year. Now, Texas does have 4 players signed for the class of 2021 and some talented pieces there as well. But, yeah, it's going to be tough. Texas might have to look into the transfer portal. Whoever the new coach is might have to look into the transfer portal just to fill spots. I mean, just to have enough bodies to field a team this year. So a lot of roster turnover coming Texas's way. CB says, could this upcoming season mirror the 11-22 season in 16-17? I hope not. It's too early to say. Way too early to say. I mean, I have to see who the coach is, and I have to see what the roster looks like. Like, Texas is already reportedly in the mix for a couple of big-name transfers. And, guys, there are so many transfers in college basketball. There are like 800 guys already in the college basketball transfer portal, and that number is only going to go up. You could play a Vegas game. You can put an over-under on how many transfers there are going to be in college basketball. And, oh, by the way, starting next year, it won't affect this year. It's starting next academic year, so 21-22, you're going to have the one-time transfer rule in college sports. So if you thought transfers are bad now in college hoops, just wait. It's about to be open season for these kids. So too early to tell, CB. Hopefully not. But yeah, I can't answer that without knowing the coach and without knowing at all what the roster looks like. I'll keep scrolling down, keep looking at your comments. Appreciate the love, guys. Great feedback to this point. We'll keep going for a while. I'm not on the air until 3. At some point, I'm going to have to stop and eat lunch and probably prepare for the show too. But hey, we'll be talking about this throughout the course of today's show. 3 to 7, Rod Babers and myself. Kevin Dunn taking the day off. I feel for him, man. I mean, look, he's getting a day off. He's going to his nephew's wedding. That's all good. That'll be fun. But it sucks taking a day off when you have a huge story like this that breaks. These are the days we love working in radio. I love working in radio every day, but these are the days where it's easy to work in radio. I do this job for free when you have a big news story drop like this. All right. James says it's been reported that Texas will have to pay at least $6 million to buy out Beard, who's the fifth highest paid head coach. You guys can read that. I will mention this on April 1st. I mentioned this earlier, but James, maybe you're late to the party. That's all good. We appreciate anybody and everybody who stops by, whether you're here for 1 minute, whether you're here for an hour. On April 1st, the Chris Beard buyout drops to $4 million. On April 1st, the Chris Beard buyout drops to $4 million. So I don't know who's been reporting that $6 million number or the at least $6 million number, but April 1st, it'll be $4 million for Texas to buy out Chris Beard. Maybe the money's a little bit more to get some of his assistants as well. I'll have to look into that. But for Beard himself, it's $4 million starting April 1st. So I think it's good news, guys. I think it's really, really good news if you don't hear anything about this coaching search for a while, or at least anything official on this coaching search for a while. Pulling up my phone right now, checking the calendar. April 1st is next Thursday. So if you don't hear anything from now to next Thursday, I think that's a good sign. I think that's a good sign because Chris Beard's my top target. He should be yours too. And they're not going to make a move before April 1st, right? Definitely nothing official is going to come out before April 1st because the buyout money drops after that day. So I think it's probably a good thing if we get more silence from CDC. And by the way, CDC, man, this is his bit. I think we should learn by now. I think we should have learned by now. I think we should know by now. It's not good if CDC remains silent about your future. Like, there are some athletic directors who will give the dreaded vote of confidence when talking about the future of their head coach. But with Karen Aston and women's basketball, Chris Del Conte was silent. With Tom Herman, look, we did have that half-assed statement that CDC released on December 12th, basically saying that right now I want to reiterate that Herman is our coach, which was the most disrespectful thing in the world, by the way. Herman is our coach. He didn't say Tom Herman. He didn't say Coach Herman. He just gave him the Herman treatment. When I saw that, look, I had already kind of known that the move was going to be made. But when I saw that, I'm like, dude, please don't read into this too much. This is a very half-assed vote of confidence. And this is only happening because National Signing Day is tomorrow. So CDC wants to keep this recruiting class as intact as he possibly can. That's what that was. But there was a lot of silence surrounding Tom Herman. And there's been silence surrounding Shaka Smart. I mean, since that loss on Saturday, we have not heard a peep from CDC about Shaka Smart's future here at Texas. And he released his 40 Acres Insider, I think, yesterday, and not a word mentioned about Shaka Smart's future at the University of Texas. So if you hear silence, if you can hear silence, if you don't hear anything from CDC and you're a head coach at Texas, that might be a bad sign. And once again, Shaka Smart was not fired from Texas. He took the job at Marquette under his own accord. But from what I've been told, Shaka Smart was basically told, hey, go find a job or we're firing you. Like, we want you to find a job. We want you to land on your feet. But if you don't, sorry, coach, we're going to have to make a move. Thankfully for all parties involved, Shaka Smart was able to land on his feet and get that gig at Marquette. Spencer says Nate Oates. Talked about him a little bit earlier. It's weird. I mean, the fade from me with this green screen behind me, it's weird. You can like see through my eyes. Every time I open my mouth, I feel like, I don't know. Anyways, sorry, I'm sidetracked here. It's Friday. Whatever, guys. Nate Oates. Yeah, Nate Oates would be a top 5 candidate for me. I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't. His buyout is hefty. I think his buyout is $12 to $14 million. Don't quote me on that, but it's double digits if memory serves. And I don't think Texas wants to pay that for Nate Oates. He's a great coach. He's done a phenomenal job at Alabama. Tier 2 for him. Look, he was great at Buffalo. He built Buffalo into a solid team. They made the tournament as a 6 seed a couple of years ago, lost to Texas Tech during Texas Tech's run to the national title game under Chris Beard. But yeah, Nate Oates took that job at Alabama. Year 2 for him. Crimson Tide are a 2 seed. They're 2 wins away from the Final Four. They won the SEC regular season and tournament championship this year. So I wouldn't hate Nate Oates at all. If you tell me right now that Nate Oates is going to be the next head coach of Texas basketball, I'd be pumped. It's a major upgrade over Shaka Smart. Major upgrade over Shaka Smart. So he's a top 3 to 5 candidate for me, but I would guess Texas will not hire Nate Oates. And I'm not 100% sure that like Nate Oates would leave Alabama for Texas. You bring in the money whip equation, maybe Texas money whips Nate Oates, but I don't think it's going to happen at UT. All right, let's see. I'll read a couple of more comments, guys. Man, they're coming in. Appreciate that. Jeff Howe said Musselman should be one of the first calls. Eric Musselman at Arkansas. Eric Musselman has a history with Texas. Not good if you're a Texas fan, but he was the coach at Nevada when the Wolfpack beat the Longhorns in the first round of the NCAA tournament in 2018. That game still hurts. God, all three of Shaka Smart's tournament losses at Texas were just so excruciatingly painful, guys. So heartbreaking. And I'm sorry to do this, but I mean, the Abilene Christian one was the worst. That was the most embarrassing. The 14 seed ACU Wildcats, that's the lowest seeded team Texas has ever lost to in the NCAA tournament. It's the most embarrassing loss in school history for the Longhorns. But that loss was heartbreaking. 2 free throws in the final second. The Nevada loss, Texas had a 14-point second-half lead in that game before losing to the Wolfpack in overtime. That hurt. And then, of course, the Northern Iowa loss in year 1. Jesperson. Effing Jesperson, man. All three, I mean, and look, it's survive and advance in the NCAA tournament. You have to win games like that. You have to find ways to win games. The reason Shaka Smart got fired was because he won 0 NCAA tournament games. So I guess in the end, it doesn't matter how excruciating they are or how close they are, but God, that just felt like twisting the knife a little bit. Like, not only could he not win in the tournament, but the way he lost in the tournament just made it so much more painful for us Texas fans. But yeah, Eric Musselman's done a great job at Arkansas, and I wouldn't be opposed. Look, if you told me right now Eric Musselman would be the next head coach of Texas basketball, I'd be okay with that. He'd be a back end of the top 5 candidate for me too. He's not as high as Chris Beard. He's not as high as Brad Underwood on the list. But yeah, you make the call to Arkansas. Why not? You make a call to Musselman's people and engage interest right there. Jeff Hout, Light the Tower. Listen to them, 10 to noon. Jeff and Craig. They broke the news on air earlier today because it dropped in the 10 o'clock hour. Dick Pitino. Does he go by Dick? Are we just calling him a Dick because of his history? No, Rick Pitino is not going to be the next head coach of Texas basketball. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Look, Shaka Smart, a very well liked, very well respected coach. I think the thing that CDC liked the most about Shaka Smart was the fact that he stayed out of trouble. He stayed out of the limelight. He stayed away from the NCAA. He stayed away from the FBI in terms of investigations. Rick Pitino has got more baggage than arguably any coach in the history of college basketball. So, no, Rick Pitino is not coming to Texas. He's also very old. I don't think Texas wants to hire a guy who's nearing 70. Someone texted me earlier and asked about John Beilein. John Beilein, I think he is 70, or he's very close to 70 if he's not there yet. John Beilein's a fantastic college coach. Mentioned him earlier. Made a couple of Final Fours with Michigan, had Michigan playing for a couple of national championships. They didn't win a national title, but still very, very impressive tenure for John Beilein at Michigan. But yeah, he's 68 years old, guys. He's going to be 69. Nice. A very nice 69 by the time next basketball season rolls around. So too old. You don't want to hire a 68-year-old, a guy nearing 70 to coach your college basketball program if you're trying to turn things around, right? So, no, I don't think John Beilein is in the mix for Texas. I don't think Rick Pitino is in the mix for Texas. I don't think either of those guys should be in the mix for Texas as well. Most embarrassing loss in Texas basketball history is mentioned and everyone gets a trophy. Yeah, they stole that from me. I had that first. Not that was a super hot take in my opinion. I mean, it is. I don't know what game you could argue rivals that. Texas has obviously had more embarrassing basketball seasons, no question. They were 11-22 5 years ago. They've missed the tournament 3 times in the last decade. They lost in the first round of the CBI in one of the final Rick Barnes years. They've had some way, 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 way more embarrassing seasons. But in terms of individual games in the sport that's defined by success in the NCAA tournament, you can't lose to Abilene Christian. That's the most embarrassing loss in Texas basketball history, without question. All right. Couple more comments. Appreciate the love. Michael M says Chris Beard or bust. Chris Beard's my top target. I'll reiterate that. We'll talk about that. I'll do more research on the coaching candidates this weekend, and then early next week we'll do another video, assuming no news drops over the course of this weekend in terms of Texas making an announcement of who the next head basketball coach is going to be. I don't expect it to happen this weekend. But look, I mean, CDC would not have made this move, or at least told Shaka Smart to make the move that he made, if he wasn't already on the phone, if he wasn't already working on stuff. And I think he has been working on some stuff. So maybe something will drop over the weekend. I don't expect it to. Obviously, if something does happen, I'm going to Galveston, Jewish holiday of Passover this weekend. Shittiest holiday of the year, guys. 8 days with no bread. It's the absolute worst. I got to eat matzah. I don't know if y'all even know what that is. But if something does happen, obviously I'll go live in Galveston at my parents' place. But I don't expect anything to happen. And then back to this message, why I'm even talking about this, Chris Beard or bust. It's not Chris Beard or bust. He's my first choice, but there are still a number of really, really good candidates out there. Brad Underwood, if he's hired, you should be thrilled if you're a Texas fan. Nate Oates, Eric Musselman, just talked about them. If either of those guys is the guy, yeah, you should be happy about that if you're a Texas fan too. Royal Ivey should excite you as a Texas fan. He's not my first choice, but I'd be excited if Royal Ivey's going to be the guy. I would be. I really would. So not Chris Beard or bust, but I mean, if he's your first choice, if that's the point you're trying to make, then for sure. I buy that. All right. Coach Wojo says, I was a good coach. Why did they fire me? Thanks for stopping by, Woj. Appreciate that. The former head coach of Marquette basketball, which is weird, guys. Once again, I haven't checked Twitter enough. I haven't checked Marquette basketball Twitter enough to see their reaction about the Shaka Smart news, and I don't think it's become official yet from Marquette. I don't think they've announced the hiring of Shaka Smart, but look, there are enough credible reports out there to where we all believe this thing is happening, and it is happening. But yeah, that was the knock on Wojo up there. He couldn't win in the NCAA tournament. They were a 5 seed, I think, 2 years ago, and they lost to John Morant and Murray State in the first round, and I think maybe 1 tournament win for Wojo, maybe 0. But yeah, I wonder what the reaction is hiring a coach like Shaka Smart, who just had 0 tournament success at Texas. I assume there are some Marquette fans who are a little bit upset. Marquette was linked to Porter Moser a little bit. Porter Moser, of course, the head coach at Loyola of Chicago. Dude's pretty much become a household name with his tournament successes over the last 3 years. Yeah, Porter Moser would have excited the Marquette fan base way more than Shaka Smart will. That would be my guess. Porter Moser to Indiana, something to look out for, guys. Or maybe he just stays at at Loyola of Chicago and tries to do a little Mark Few thing there in Chicago. I don't think he should, but his choice. His choice. He's making a comfortable living there in Chicago. I could tell you that. And they're probably going to have to pay him more because of what they've done this year in the NCAA tournament. And they get to play a 12 seed this weekend. They get to play Oregon State for a spot in the Elite Eight. I think Loyola's going to win that game. And then I think they get the winner of Syracuse and Houston. Like Loyola could make the Final Four again for the second time in 3 seasons. Or 3 tournaments, I should say. Second time in 4 seasons, but second time in 3 tournaments. That's unbelievable. Harrison says, is Porter Moser a proven enough candidate? Man, I mean, he's had a ton of tournament success. I don't think the interest is there. He wouldn't be that high on my list. Not a knock against Porter Moser. What he's done at Loyola of Chicago has been unbelievably impressive, but no ties to the state of Texas. I don't think he'd be interested, right? I think he would want to stay in the Midwest if he did leave Loyola of Chicago, and I think Texas would want somebody with more Texas ties as well. So I don't think he's a realistic candidate for Texas. I don't think Texas is going to make the call to Porter Moser, although I think some Texas fans would like for that to happen, at least like for a phone call to be made. But he's not a top target for me, and I don't think he's a top target for Texas. Is it confirmed that Shaka is leaving, says Dre? I don't think we have anything official, if that's what you're looking for, but we've had some of the most reputable insiders in college basketball say that he's leaving, that Shaka's taking the job at Marquette. And I've talked to some Texas insiders who said that, this is officially happening. So nothing official. Sorry for using that word officially. I feel like I just incorrectly used that. But I don't think Texas has announced it. I don't think Marquette has announced it, but there's no reason to believe that it's not happening. Dre. Gavin says Scott Drew. Greater than. Yeah, I don't think Scott Drew's a realistic fit. I don't know if he'd take this job at Texas. He said a lot of bad things about Texas over the years. If Scott Drew leaves, and I do think there's a chance he leaves this offseason, guys, if he leaves, it'll be to take the job at Arizona. Because his brother, Bryce, coaches at Grand Canyon, and his parents live out there. And I don't think Homer is in the best of health right now. So a chance to be closer to family. Arizona's a better job than Baylor. I mean, look, Scott Drew, what he's done at Baylor is incredible. Say what you will about him. Say what you will about his personality. But Baylor would have been a 1 seed last year. Obviously a 1 seed this year. They've been number 2 in the country for the vast majority of the season. They've got a legit shot to win a national title. Maybe Scott Drew doesn't want to leave that. And I wouldn't blame him for not wanting to leave that because he's got that thing rolling in Waco. But if he does leave, I think it'll be for Arizona. I don't think he's taking the job at Texas. Gavin also says Porter isn't leaving Loyola. Yeah, he might not. Now, look, Loyola does not they don't have the money. They don't have the funding that Villanova has with Jay Wright. They don't have the funding that even Gonzaga has under Mark Few. Like Loyola, the support is not as good there as it is at some of the other smaller programs that have achieved a lot of success in college basketball over the last few years. So I don't think they can become a Gonzaga or a Villanova or a school like that. But you might be right, Gavin. I mean, he might just want to build a program there, and he's proven that he could win in the tournament. I mean, the run in 2018 clearly was no fluke. Clearly, even if they lose to Oregon State, like a Final Four and a Sweet 16 in the span of 3 tournaments at Loyola of Chicago, hell, anywhere, that's impressive. So maybe he does want to stay there. I don't think Loyola of Chicago is going to become one of those Gonzaga type programs, though. I just don't think they have the resources to make that happen. All right. I think this is the last comment we have right now. If y'all have anything else you want to add, feel free. I'll roll for a couple more minutes here, and then I'll wrap this up. I'll give some final thoughts and just kind of reset for those of you who have joined the party late. Coach Cal, says Ryan. No, John Calipari is not leaving Kentucky. Despite what Twitter says, despite what some crazed Kentucky fans might say, Cal's going to stay at UK. And he should stay at UK. You're not leaving Kentucky basketball to come coach at Texas. I don't think Texas is even going to make a call because I think they realize that is unrealistic. And once again, talking about the microscope, like Cal's got some dirt on him. He's not the cleanest of college basketball coaches. I don't think I'm breaking any news here. But yeah, CDC does not want to deal with that. He doesn't want to hire a coach who's going to potentially embarrass the University of Texas. And look, CDC wants basketball to be successful. There's no doubt. He's mentioned that he wants every single athletic program at UT to be around the top 10 year in and year out. So it's not like he doesn't care about basketball. I'm not saying that, but football pays the bills here. And then baseball is probably second. Not probably. Baseball is second, a distant second, but baseball is second. So like CDC does not want basketball to be a detriment to what happens in football and baseball, mainly football. So if you bring in a coach with the baggage that Calipari has, or the baggage that I'm trying to think who else would potentially be a candidate that has a little bit of history with the – I mean, like Bill Self, too. Bill Self would never leave Kansas to take this Texas job, but we'll just use him for this equation. Like, that could potentially lead to some problems in the athletic department that would negatively impact football or baseball. I don't think CDC wants to deal with that. So he wants to hire the best available coach out there, but the best available coach that does not have any NCAA baggage or any baggage at all with him, and Calipari would be there. It's time to accept that maybe basketball isn't UT's thing. No, you should never accept that. You should absolutely never accept that. Look, Texas is top 20 in college basketball history in wins all time. And Texas is ahead of some pretty reputable programs in terms of that stat, in terms of all-time college basketball wins. I know Texas has no national championships. 3 Final Fours isn't a great number, but it is in the top 30 of college basketball programs in the country. Texas is a top 25 college basketball program in terms of winning percentage as well. So, look, Texas is not a blue blood. I'm not sitting here telling you that. Texas is not Kansas. They're not Kentucky. They're not Duke. They're not Carolina. They never will be any of those schools, right? Basketball just doesn't mean as much down here as it does in those places, and I get that. That's fine. But you shouldn't accept, when you have as much money and as many resources as Texas has, you shouldn't accept that like basketball can't be your thing. And Rick Barnes made the tournament in all but 1 year, and he had some deep tournament runs. I know he had some embarrassing tournament losses as well, but like you should be that type of program. You should be aughts Texas basketball, where you're making the tournament every year. Like, no question, you're making the tournament every year, and you're a higher seed in the NCAA tournament, and you're making runs to the Final Four or the Elite Eight, or at least to the second weekend. Like where Texas was from 01 to 08, that's where they should be every single decade. Now, is it realistic for that to happen all the time? Probably not. You're going to have ups and downs. Every program has ups and downs. It happens. Duke missed the damn tournament this year. It happens. But you should never accept that, like, just we don't care about basketball, or we shouldn't care about basketball, or we're never going to be good at basketball. Guys, the Moody Center, when it opens, it's going to be the nicest arena in college basketball. You cannot find any arena in this sport that has as much money being pumped into it as the Moody Center does. I mean, $338 million. That was the initial prognostication for how much money the Moody Center would cost. And I think we're going to exceed that number when it's all said and done. I think when the building's complete, it's going to be closer to like $380 million to finish the Moody Center. There is not an arena that's anywhere close to as nice as that in the country. And when you think of the best arenas in college basketball, you don't think of like amenities. You don't think of them because they're nice. You think of them because they're historic, right? Cameron Indoor and Allen Fieldhouse and the Dean Dome, and you can throw the carrier, like whatever, Hinkle Fieldhouse. Those aren't nice arenas. They're historic. They're historic, but they're old. Texas is going to have a nice-ass arena, and they're upgrading the practice facilities as well. That will be on par with the best college basketball programs in the country. And there is so much talent in the state of Texas. You can win a national championship every year in this sport with just players from the state of Texas. Now, I think the next coach, hopefully he does well enough to where he can lure 4- and 5-star kids from across the country. I expect that to happen. But you're in a recruiting hotbed. You're about to get the nicest arena in the country, and you're about to get, hopefully, a coach that can really turn your program around. Like, there's no reason for Texas to not be good at basketball. There's no reason for Texas to not be good at basketball. Even if football's number 1, even if baseball's number 2, there's no reason for the next head coach to not be able to have success here in Austin. All right, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Once again, the big news, Shaka Smart going to Marquette. You guys have all seen that by now. Great news for all parties, right? Great news for everybody. Texas gets to hire a new coach. Texas gets to hire a better coach. Shaka Smart lands on his feet. Well-liked, well-respected. Always nice to me every time we interacted. I don't think you could find anybody who would have a bad thing to say about Shaka Smart. I mean, not just here in Austin, not just around the University of Texas, but just around the world. And around the college basketball landscape too. So a well-liked, well-respected dude. He lands on his feet, gets a good job at Marquette, Marquette is in Wisconsin. Shaka Smart is from Wisconsin, so he gets to go back close to home. He already has some connects there. Marquette's a decent job, so Shaka lands on his feet. Texas does not have to pay the $7.1 million buyout. Maybe some news has dropped since I started this video. Probably should have been checking Twitter more actively while recording today. But maybe some financial details have dropped. But Texas is not going to have to pay all the $7.1 million buyout. They might have to pay some of it. They might not have to pay any of it. But I know for a fact they are not going to have to pay all of Shaka Smart's buyout, which is great. You're already spending a bunch of money on a bunch of other things, so try to avoid that. And then Texas also does not have to deal with the public blowback of firing a coach who just won the first Big 12 tournament title in school history, a coach that just had his team as a 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. Like you generally don't fire coaches like that when that stuff happens. Now, Texas should have fired Shaka Smart. If you've been listening to my radio show for the last few months, hell, for the last few years, I've been saying that for a long, long time. But like the optics of that are questionable. Once again, with the eyes of Texas situation and some of the racial issues that have surrounded the University of Texas over the last year, and well, beyond the last year, but that have come to light a lot in the last year, optically, firing the first black head coach in school history after all the success that Texas had this year wouldn't be great. It wouldn't have looked great. Whether you agree with it or not, it would not have looked great, guys. So Shaka lands on his feet. He gets a good job. Texas doesn't have to deal with the social media backlash, the public reprimand, whatever you want to call it, of firing Shaka Smart. Ryan keeps saying Wes Miller. I'll get to your comment before we leave, Ryan. Wes Miller at Carolina Greensboro. Nah, you got to swing for the fences. And Wes Miller, I think he's a good coach, but that's not swinging for the fences. Somebody mentioned Joe Golding, the head coach at Abilene Christian. Like, no. You could do better than that. You could do better than that. McCasland at UNT. Someone texted me about him. I think Grant McCasland could be the next head coach at OU, guys. Keep that in mind. Just remember that name. Of course, Lon Kruger just retired from Oklahoma yesterday, 45 years of coaching. Great career for him. But no, yeah, you can get somebody better than Wes Miller, Ryan. Not that Wes Miller's a bad coach. I think he's a rising star in the industry. But you go after Chris Beard. You go after Brad Underwood. You go after Nate Oates. You go after Eric Musselman. You go after a guy who's proven that he could win at a power program. Wes Miller's not that right now. So, all right, guys. Thank you all for watching. Damn, over an hour. Appreciate the love. You guys kept this thing going big time. And once again, we're going to keep doing these moving forward. We'll talk Texas basketball. We'll talk Texas football, of course. We'll talk some Texas baseball. We'll adjust the green screen behind me, so we'll be doing broadcasts from different places around campus, maybe around the city as well. Might have some fun with this little green screen bit, but definitely we'll be back next week to talk about coaching candidates and updates on the Texas basketball coaching search. And once again, if anything drops over the weekend, we'll go live. Wherever I'm at, I'll go live here to give y'all my thoughts. But good day for Texas basketball, guys. Great day. All parties involved should be happy with this. Happy for Shaka Smart that he found another job, but even happier for us Texas fans, for us lifetime Longhorns, because Texas needed an upgrade at basketball, a basketball coach. At basketball, it's not a sentence. I'm tired. Texas needed an upgrade, and they are going to upgrade. They are going to upgrade. So, all right. Thank you all for watching. Appreciate the love. Appreciate the support. It means the world. Listen to the triple option with RBKD this afternoon from 3 to 7. The conversation will continue. Check out all the shows on the Horn, right? Chad and Trey are about to go on. I'm sure they'll give their thoughts on this too, but we'll be talking about it all afternoon long from 3 to 7. So thanks for the love. I will talk to y'all soon. Welcome.